You must have heard about this revolutionary transportation system called the Hyperloop, which is capable of reaching speeds up to 700 miles per hour and travel from New York to Washington DC in 30 minutes. Doesn't it sound too good to be true? Let's discuss about the technology behind this and where we are in terms of bringing this to reality. The Hyperloop is basically a high-speed transportation system consisting of pods or capsules running at high speed in a very low-pressure tube. Overcoming air resistance is one of the biggest uses of energy in high-speed travel. Airplanes travel at high altitudes to travel through less dense air, and the Hyperloop creates low pressure inside its loop to propel the pods easily with less air resistance. This concept actually started back in the 18th century. George Medhurst of London conceived of an atmospheric railway system that would transport people or cargo through pressurized or evacuated tubes. But at the time, it would be very expensive, and because of other disadvantages, various technologies took over and practical forms were never implemented. Later on, pneumatic tubes were used to transport solid objects such as mail, paperwork, or money, and were a convenient way to send objects quickly through a network of tubes. They were used in post offices, railroads, hospitals, and some are still in use in many places today. Over the years, transportation technology has taken tremendous strides, and the transport of people mainly consists of four unique types: rail, road, water, air. And each one has its limitations in terms of cost and time. Elon Musk mentioned that he was thinking about a fifth mode of transportation with the following properties: immune to weather, collision-free, twice the speed of a plane, low power consumption, and energy storage for 24-hour operation. The concept was released as an open source design by a joint team from SpaceX and Tesla in 2012. The main intent in releasing it as an open source design, in a similar fashion to the Linux operating system, was to promote research and development, get feedback from the community, and help bring this concept to reality. In the initial proposed design, Hyperloop Alpha consists of a low-pressure tube with capsules that are transported at both low and high speeds throughout the length of the tube. The capsules are supported on a cushion of air, featuring pressurized air and aerodynamic lift. The capsules are accelerated with magnetic linear accelerators fixed at various stations. The initial proposed route was between San Francisco to California, with a total trip time of half an hour, and capsules departing as frequently as 30 seconds, carrying 28 people each. The total expenditure would be around $6 billion, and when analyzed over a period of 20 years, it would come to about $20 per ride. Solar panels would cover the top of the tube to provide power to the system. The entire system would actually generate more power than it needs for functioning, and the excess power can be sent to the grid. The most important part which makes the Hyperloop so efficient is the reduction of air pressure. Aerodynamic drag increases with the square of speed, and the power requirement increases with the cube of speed. So for a vehicle to travel twice as fast, it would have to overcome 4 times the aerodynamic resistance or 8 times the power. This is the reason why aircrafts fly at such high altitude. The Hyperloop would have a drag force lesser by 1,000 times relative to the sea level. So traveling in the Hyperloop would be equivalent to flying above 150,000 feet altitude. At 700 miles per hour, the pod will have a drag force equivalent to the weight of an oversized checked bag at the airport. This is what makes the Hyperloop so fast and efficient. The Hyperloop Pod Competition, sponsored by SpaceX, encourages teams to participate and build prototypes to demonstrate the technical feasibility of the various aspects of the Hyperloop concept. The first competition was held in 2016 and received over 700 applications from various teams across the world, and 30 teams were selected to go forward and build the prototypes and test them in the 1-kilometer Hypertube track built in California. The prototypes built by the student teams were quite impressive, and according to Elon Musk, the Hyperloop is quite easy to understand and implement.
I know that there are various companies that are trying to create the Hyperloop, and honestly I think it's a lot easier than people think.
The blueprints are pretty complicated.
Well, blueprints are always kind of complicated, and I mean, yes, there's math, but it's really not that hard.
It still sounds pretty complicated, Elon.
It's like a tube with an air hockey table. It's just a low-pressure tube with a pod in it that runs on air bearings, on air skis, with an air compressor on the front that's taking the high-pressure air buildup on the nose and pumping it through the air skis. It's really, I swear, it's not that hard.
The competition is being held every year, and in 2018, the WARR Hyperloop team from the University of Munich clocked a record speed of 290 miles per hour.
3, 2, 1, launch.
Congratulations to the fastest team at over 200 miles an hour, the Technical University of Munich, Team War.
A number of companies are also working on Hyperloop, the prominent ones being Virgin Hyperloop One, backed by the billionaire Richard Branson. The company was started back in 2014 and has come a long way to reach a top speed of 240 miles per hour. They held a global challenge with a call for proposals to build Hyperloop networks connecting various cities across the world, and have shortlisted 10 routes on which they're currently doing a feasibility study. These include Toronto to Montreal in Canada, Miami to Orlando in United States, Mumbai to Chennai in India, and many more. They expect to start construction by 2019 and could have an operational Hyperloop by 2023.
The technology itself can do numerous things. It can transport freight at tremendous speeds. It can transport people at tremendous speeds. It can transform docks, for instance. I mean, like if you give an example, there's one project that Virgin Hyperloop are looking at where there's an enormous dock in a prime site in the Middle East, and by unloading the goods out at sea on a little island, putting it into Virgin Hyperloop, they can whisk those goods under the dock, and lorries can come and pick them up right inland. So all that dock space can then be turned into valuable housing, and people can actually enjoy the beauty of the sea rather than dockland being used for it.
Hyperloop Transportation Technologies is another company making great strides and has an amazing team from NASA, SpaceX, and other companies. They recently unveiled the Hyperloop passenger capsule and have signed agreements with various governments across the world for constructing the Hyperloop. They're going to start the construction of the first Hyperloop system in Abu Dhabi in the third quarter of 2019. It's really exciting to see such major strides in the field of technology, and the constructive competition between these teams and companies will help in advancing the technology and realize this concept. I believe it is not a matter of whether Hyperloop will be brought into reality, but only a question of when. Imagine avoiding the traffic completely and traveling from San Francisco to Los Angeles or New York to Washington DC in 30 minutes. Wouldn't that be great? I hope you liked this video, and please do give suggestions for future topics in the comments below. Signing off, Nikhil from Amazed HD.